So I thought for a little bit about what to title this episode for today's show. Like, hey, what's the theme? What should we call it? And I settled on something. Let me know if this is good. I figure we call this episode The Call Up. What do you think?
I think, that might. I don't know. It feels unoriginal. I feel like we've heard of like 4 other of those. I feel like there's 4 other call-ups.
Also the one that we do. But Just Baseball Show presented by BetMGM for Tuesday, June 11th. We told you we would talk about Hurston Waldrep a little bit more. We're going to talk about Hurston Waldrep a little bit more with the Atlanta Braves. Adael Amador. Is this a good idea? I don't think so. We'll get into it. Drew Thorpe with the White Sox is up. Tyler Locklear is up. He has an RBI double at 100 off the bat already in Kansas City. Couple of notable DFAs, couple of notable IL stints, and a notable release that we got to get into. Jack Aram, this is going to be a good one. Now, you were in Chicago. Cubs weren't at home. Cubs were in Cincinnati. Did you go see the streak end for the White Sox?
No, I think I hit my quota for the year of 1 White Sox game, and that wasn't even really a quota. I think that was my maximum.
And you didn't get the campfire milkshake, right?
I did not, dude. I can't do dairy like that. Come on. I've been very adamant on the show about the fact that I think dairy is just not meant for human consumption. I'm sure it tastes great, but yeah, no, I couldn't do that. But I did get the broth there. It goes pretty crazy.
It does.
They got good options. Again, I don't think it's close between Wrigley and the White Sox Stadium. I can't remember what they call it anymore. How many times have they changed it?
So I grew up going to U.S. Cellular Field after Comiskey, and now it's Guaranteed Rate Field.
Guaranteed Rate, that's what it is.
Yeah, Guaranteed Rate.
It's better food than Wrigley, man.
Yeah, I vehemently disagree, but you know what? We march on.
Please let us know in the YouTube comments or on Twitter if you're listening on audio if you've been able to eat at both a White Sox game and a Cubs game. To me, the Cubs games are like if you copy paste a million times on the same exact food setup, and then the White Sox, you got a little bit of everything, a lot of options, and I think they're all really good. So that's where I line up on this one, but who knows? Maybe other people will side with Wrigley. I get it's like the old ballpark feel, whatever, but why would I want less options? I just don't totally get that one.
Understood. Hey, baseball related, Aram. Who's the hottest hitter in baseball right now? Regardless of level?
Probably Griffin Conine.
I think it's Aaron Judge. I think you're wrong. I think it's Aaron Judge, but who's the second hottest?
Then I'd probably go Griffin Conine.
Yeah.
Is it Aaron Judge? Is it? Let's go over the last.
Let me go last 10.
Okay, we'll go last 10 versus last 10.
Okay, you pull up Griff. I'll pull up Aaron Judge.
Both playing at similar levels as well, and similar levels of competition.
Do you have Griff's last 10?
The 10, it's going to drop off after the 10. Oh, I don't know. We got a good case here. All right, you go.
No, you go. I think I have the winner.
400, 488, 857 slash line. That's good for, I don't have WRC Plus in front of me, but that's good for a 540 WOBA. You want to mess with that? 5 homers, 6 walks.
Can you do the addition for me? OPS, can you spit that out?
1345.
1345. How many homers?
5.
Okay. Aaron Judge, last 10. 486, 600, 1229 is an 1829 OPS. 7 homers driven in 20 over his last 10.
Bias friend alert over here. Yeah. Sound the alarms. Holy shit, Aaron Judge, man. I mean, so it's one of those things too where anytime I just see, you'll just see like in our staff chat or whatever, you'll just see Aaron Judge. And if someone just says Aaron Judge, I just know that means he homered.
Yeah.
It's not that, he made, you could have done so many different things, or it could like anything. No, it's just always a guaranteed home run. This guy now, like when we look at it over the last pretty much, again, since the toe thing, really, he was on pace to potentially beat that 62 home run output, and then has the toe thing. And then, now we're seeing him just pick up right where he left off again. It's really annoying that this toe disintegrated, because I think we really would have a continuous stretch of him just being unmatched as the best player in baseball and the best hitter. Of course, when Ohtani's pitching, then we open up the conversation and the dialogue again. But I actually like that Ohtani's not pitching this year in a weird way, because we don't have to have this stupid conversation. I know it's like part of the like.
No, you can apples to apples it. It's
yes,
I agree with
you. Just for 1 year, and Ohtani's been awesome. But right now, like there's no one sniffing anywhere close to where Aaron Judge is offensively. And I think it's cool that we can like fully appreciate it without like theater of comparing him to somebody else who does something totally different. So soak it in. I know people don't love the Yankees, but Aaron Judge is so easy to like.
And can I tell you, I don't even know if this is a hot take or not. Can I tell you, I actually enjoy this more than Acuna's 40-70 last year. Like, I would take this on my team before an Acuna 40-70 season.
Define this.
What he's done so far this year. Like, if you extrapolated Aaron Judge's 2024 season over an entire 162.
Oh, I saw that.
And you get, I didn't see it. But I'm sure video game numbers. Yeah, pull that up real quick. If you extrapolate what he's done so far this year over 162, and you put that side by side with Acuna's 2023, I think I'm taking Aaron Judge. Like, this guy, I tweeted this out since May 1st. And Peter, like, he tried giving me shit, I guess, on yesterday's show. He was like, you're falling in love with Aaron Judge. I'm watching you fall in love with Aaron Judge. I'm like, what do you mean falling in love? I'm already here.
I'm appreciating the most dominant hitter we've seen, maybe.
Again,
I can't really think back. You have to think back to the steroid era to see a hitter that's really is doing this over a prolonged stretch the way that Judge has.
I brought this up at the end of May. His May was the best month OPS-wise. I think it was 1443 in the month of May. The best month OPS-wise since Chipper Jones in like July 2006 or June 2006. Before that, Giambi had a month in 05, and then it was Bonds for a couple of months in 04. That is what Judge is doing. But since May 1st, Judge is hitting 387. He leads Major League Baseball since May 1st in batting average, OBP, slugging, homers, RBIs, runs scored, doubles, extra base hits, total bases, walks. He's 428 points clear a second in OPS with a 1466 in the last 5 weeks.
I mean, and here's another fun number for you too. So this wasn't the entire season so far. It's a little bit more cherry picked, but how it's still so fun. Last 30 games for Aaron Judge, and this came from at MLB Metrics on Twitter, who also is doing great stuff with us. So this was also on our Instagram as well. His last 30 games, and I get it, it's cherry picked, but like, let's just have some fun with the numbers here. If you extrapolated his last 30 games over a full 162 game season, he'd get 232 hits, 184 runs, 205 driven in, and 92 home runs. A 413, 534, 1,048 slash line. That's good for a 1,582 OPS. I know it's 30 games, and you can extrapolate over 162. That's the whole point. Baseball is really hard, but it's also not 3 games. It's not 10 games. It's 30 games. Like that is a good chunk of the season as well. So, I mean, that's half of the MVP campaign that we saw from Jose Abreu and Freddie Freeman, right? So, and Trevor Bauer's Cy Young campaign, like it's half of that. So, I think it is really cool just to see what he's doing, and it's just good for baseball, period. When the best players and the most talented players are performing at the highest level. What's amazing to me, though, is if you told me Judge was going to do this over the series and just continue doing what he was doing, I'd say, oh, the Yankees took care of business then in that series, right? Nope. And I know you guys went over that last episode, but I do want to give the Dodgers some shine here. Like, and this is always a reminder that they can kind of turn it on a little bit more. And I don't want to put too much weight into like one series, but this was obviously a playoff atmosphere. You saw it. It was such a cool spectacle for baseball too. And I know Peter was there and kind of documented it too on our social media channels, but I felt like you saw the Dodgers kind of lock in a little bit more in this one as well, in this series. And they gave the Yankees kind of their best punch there in the Bronx. So it's fun, and it's a good reminder of like, hey, even if this Dodgers team isn't pacing the league and wins, which they still might do by the end of the year, well, when the lights are bright and it's time to lock in, like there's still that Dodgers team that everybody has been talking about and has been terrified of, since the beginning of the season. So I'm excited. I'm hoping for more of these types of matchups, and there's another perfect example of why it is good to have a more diverse schedule, because you get more instances like this. And I love divisional matchups and all that good stuff, but stuff like this is just so good for baseball in the middle of June when you have this kind of spectacle and people excited about a regular season matchup this early.
Without a doubt. The other thing, Aaron Judge currently sits at 281 career home runs. Like that's the last thing that I want to say. So he will probably end this year, his age 32 season, with 300 homers already.
Yeah, and that's with a late start.
That's with a late start. College
guy, slow development because of his archetype, and and a guy that, still even struggled a bit right out of the gate. So, and then really hit the ground running after that. But, that first stint wasn't great either. So he got a late start, and he's still going to end up making up for lost time and putting up crazy power numbers. So it's fun to watch. And I hope people, no matter how much you may hate the Yankees, I don't want to see the Yankees win either that much, but I do really enjoy watching Judge do his thing.
100%. Aaron Judge in 2022, his 62 homer season, a 209 WRC plus. His full season WRC plus right now, even accounting for that quote unquote slow start, 214, 5 points better than where he was at in 2022. So that's what we got here. But now, time to turn this show into the call up. Hurston Waldrep of the Atlanta Braves is the first of 4 call ups that we're going to talk about. And this was like, and it sounds weird, but this was almost as fun of a call-up weekend as we've had, because it wasn't a Jackson Holiday. It wasn't a top 10 prospect in baseball. It was Adael Amador, a top 50 prospect in baseball that really struggled for a couple of months. Drew Thorpe, a top 50 prospect in baseball. Hurston Waldrep, a guy that climbed from 100 to 80. And then Tyler Locklear, who's outside the top 100, but firmly inside the top 10 when it comes to Mariners prospects. But let's start with Hurston Waldrep, who was at number 100 at the first update to the top 100 going into the 2024 season. He climbed to 80 in the update on June 1. And Hurston Waldrep of the Atlanta Braves made his major league debut on Sunday. He faced the minimum through 3 1/3 innings. Then, single, walk, out, single, homer, walk, single, walk. 7 earned in 3 2/3 innings, 4 walks, 1 K. Now, that in itself kind of embodies the concern that we had about Hurston Waldrep, but let's lay the groundwork a little bit. 9 starts in Double-A with Mississippi, 49 in the 3rd innings, a 2.92 ERA, punched out 48, walked 17 in 49 and a third. And then in 1 start with Gwinnett, he got hit teensy bit, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned, so a quality start, 11 Ks, 1 walk. We thought he was comfortable in the strike zone, and he got nervous in his big league debut, and I think that was very clear.
It's just a tale as old as time, right? That's why you can't really take too much away from some of these big league debuts. Yeah, some pitchers are going to hit the ground running and have these crazy starts to their career, but most of them aren't. It's just the reality of it. And I think that we always talk about it. The guys with the unique release characteristics, especially in the fastball, are going to be the guys that end up, being able to make that leap. When we talk about the Brian Woos, the Bryce Millers, those types. But I do think, like, when you are a guy like Hurston Waldrep, there is a little bit more of that likelihood of nibbling, especially when the fastball, he throws hard. And I think people saw that it averaged 96 in that outing, and he ran it up to 98. But at the same time, it doesn't have the best characteristics in the world. So he knows that. He's aware of that. It got hit pretty hard in college. He's improved the fastball since then, but it's not a plus heater. And it doesn't, people will give it a plus grade because of the velocity, but it doesn't really play as a plus pitch, to be honest. So I think that was part of it. And then the other side is, yes, the breaking ball has been there for him this year, but he has really leaned on that splitter going all the way back to college. And it's immediately one of the best changeups in all of Major League Baseball. Immediately. No doubt about it.
It was very similar to Casey Mize when he came in. Like that Casey Mize split his rookie year and the year after. It was one of the best splitters in all of baseball, if not the best splitter in all of baseball at the time. Problem is, like, the rest of the arsenal just wasn't big league ready, and that's why you saw him slow out of the gates.
100%. And the difference, though, I think with Waldrep is that he will lean on that splitter more, whereas Mize tried to make it work with his other stuff, and you can almost appreciate that effort, but that was resulting in him getting knocked around a little bit more. But Waldrep, he throws 13 sliders, 8 of them are a ball, so he starts to lose confidence in that, starts to lean on the fastball more, and then the only other pitch that he has is that splitter. So he's throwing the splitter more than he wants to throw it. And I think hitters started to just tug it up a little bit, right? Bring the zone up, knowing that, hey, yeah, the splitter is great, but he's going to have to go to the fastball eventually. I'll dare him to locate 3 splitters and bring that fastball up. And that's exactly what happened. So yeah, he did get some swings and misses on the splitter, but they were able to kind of shrink the zone and crush the fastballs. He threw 25 fastballs. He threw 24 splitters. You're negating or watering down your best pitch when you're throwing it as much as your fastball. And I think the big reason why is he just didn't have the slider in that one. But at the same time, we saw what we were worried about, as you alluded to, which was a little bit too much dependency on that splitter. But hopefully he will kind of get comfortable and work that out and be just fine. ultimately. I do just want to give the splitter a specific shout here. Opponents hit 141 against it so far this year with a 415 OPS. And if you go back to last year, including college and then all of the minor league levels that he pitched at, opponents hit 063 with a 229 OPS against that splitter. That pitch alone will make him a quality big league arm, along with the velocity that he has. But if he wants to stick as a starter, I think we're seeing what that missing piece is right now. And his debut was an example of what you can see on both sides, I think.
The thing that we're going to kind of cap each of the player conversations with when we talk about these 4 debuts are how they fit in to the big league situation. And Waldrep, I think it's very clear how he fits into the big league situation. He's up there, and they have 13 rostered pitchers right now. They can go 6-man if they want to protect a Fried, protect a young Schwellenbach, protect a Reynaldo Lopez, who's worked his way back into the rotation after being a bullpen arm, protect a Chris Sale that's been hurt for the last several years, and protect a Hurston Waldrep. And by the way, protect a 40-year-old Charlie Morton if they want to, just to round it out. But like, they've got Lopez, Sale, Morton, Fried, Schwellenbach, Waldrep. You can kind of mix and match those guys. And I look at like what the shelf looks like right now. Strider's out for the year. We know that, internal brace. AJ Smith-Shawver, an oblique strain at the end of May. That might take some time, especially with how athletic on the hill he is. Then you go to the bullpen. Guy like Herget has shoulder inflammation. Matzik has elbow inflammation. Minter has hip inflammation. And then you go to the minor leagues and you take a peek at a Bryce Elder, a Darius Vines, a Dylan Dodd, a Huascar Ynoa. Do any of those guys present a better option than Hurston Waldrep or Spencer Schwellenbach at this point? My answer is a firm no.
No.
He's up there.
Absolutely not.
He's
Absolutely
up there.
not. And what I like about Waldrep is even if he struggles through a couple more starts, as you talked about, even the second they drafted him, fast track a multi-inning reliever, then you can lean on that splitter. Throw it a bunch. Who cares? And the fastball in 1 to 2 inning spurts will tick up to 100 probably. And then that's going to play shape aside. That's where shape starts to matter a lot less. Yeah. Shape will still matter, 96. But when you get it to 100, then it doesn't matter as much. You have those 2 pitches. He will be a multi-inning successful reliever at the very least. Schwellenbach, I trust more as that starter. I know he got roughed up in his last outing, but at least, he's been able to give you now 9 2/3 over his first 2 outings. And pitching at Fenway is never easy, especially, I know the Red Sox aren't clicking on all cylinders right now, but it's still a pretty good offense, and that's one of the tougher ballparks to pitch in. So I think Schwellenbach's a guy that looks really good overall to be able to hold that other rotation spot. But in the meantime, I think we're going to see that Waldrep can be that guy that fills into the bullpen, as you mentioned, because they might need help there, or it could also be the guy that fills in the rotation while Smith-Shawver's out. So he is this Swiss Army knife for them, and I think it's great to get him the experience on June 8th or 9th instead of trying to figure this out later in the season. Let him work through it now.
Yeah, and if anybody has been tailor-made for the DL Hall situation in Baltimore, it's Hurston Waldrep in Atlanta. Like, that guy is prototype of, hey, we'll put you in the pen, you'll bounce back, make a spot start, that kind of thing. You can kind of ragdoll him around because he could be successful in either of those. I wouldn't be shocked if his next appearance comes out of the bullpen like that. Can either of them pick up a bat, Waldrep or Schwellenbach? Can either of them hit?
Schwellenbach can hit.
He can, former two-way guy.
He played shortstop in Nebraska. That guy could swing it.
Get him in the lineup, because that lineup is somehow putrid right now.
Who would have thought? And like, I'd love to be able to just say, oh, well, they'll get adjusted to not having Acuna and they'll settle in. Acuna wasn't swinging it before. So it's one of those situations where you look at the lineup and you're like, how are they not hitting? But, I still don't have a ton of concern about that in the grand scheme. But by the way, Schwellenbach, in his junior season, his draft year, 862 OPS. Not bad. 9 for 9 on the stolen base department. 6 homers. Guy can swing it a little bit.
How about this from Cespedes Family Barbecue? I wanted to find the note. On April 26th, the Braves beat the Guardians to move to 18-6, who was the best record in baseball at the time. Since then, the Braves are 5 games under 500. They're 17-22 since April 26th. They are 29th in runs per game, 29th in batting average, 30th in OBP. They have a 280 OBP as a team over the last 6 weeks. 27th in slug, 30th, like dead last in WOBA. Like, yeah, Schwellenbach, pick up the stick, man.
Yeah. What's your panic meter at with them at this point?
For this year,
Yeah.
6? Like, dude, no Acuna, no Strider is like that hurts. And I know they won the World Series without Acuna and without Strider at the time too, but like no Acuna, no Strider for this long, and you're trying to win the World Series. Like anything shy of a World Series is a disappointment. I wouldn't consider them a top 4 contender for a World Series championship right now.
Not right now. I think I agree with you. I think you have to look at the expectations. I still expect them to somehow, they could backpedal into the playoffs.
I think so
because of how good they are. Although the way they're playing right now, they wouldn't if they kept this up the rest of the way.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to backpedal into the playoffs very easily. But that doesn't really affect my panic meter. Because if I was worried that they wouldn't make the playoffs, my panic meter would be at 10. We're talking about the Braves. It's in the same conversation as the Dodgers. It's world, like you said, World Series or bust. So, yeah, I think a 6 is reasonable. I still think, Riley's going to get going. I do really think he's banged up. I believe in a lot of their other bats that they can get going too. But they have been really, really banged up, and it's been unfortunate for them. But I do trust Alex Anthopoulos, though, to go and make the right moves because they're not just going to sit there and just let this year be a little bit of a disappointment. They know that their window is, and they've really made it bigger because of all of the pre-arb deals and everything. But at the end of the day, you're only going to be one of the best teams in baseball for as long as you're going to be one of the best teams in baseball. You don't know how long that's going to last and how long all of these guys perform the way that they're performing. AA is going to make the move that he has to make. And I think right now they're probably trying to assess through this struggle what that move exactly is. And I'm interested to see an Alex Anthopoulos who operates now working from behind a little bit. It's not like crazy from behind, but in a way where it's like, we need to make a move to catch up, not we need to make a move to be able to maintain our pace on everybody. So I am interested to see a GM in a little bit of a slightly different role or approach with the way that the team is kind of going this year.
Can I ask you who has value in their farm?
Yeah. Nacho Alvarez.
Okay. Ceballos?
Murphy still has value, even though he's on the shelf with TJ.
But, do you move an Owen Murphy with how good he looked?
You'd have to really feel good about how you're upgrading, I think. Yeah. They've got a couple arms, but, yeah, it's not the most loaded farm system, that's for sure.
Bottom 5 in baseball, surely. So,
yeah, but they'll somehow produce a couple big leaguers out of it, as they always do.
I'm sure. Speaking of backpedaling into the postseason, the Colorado Rockies are calling up Adael Amador. Adael Amador is the number 47 prospect in the Just Baseball Top 100. He's the top Rockies prospect. He is a big-time faller from the first list of 2024. And I did the splits, so, I think this is the entirety of the conversation with Adael Amador. And, I could give you the full season stats. I feel like those really don't help us at this point. I'm going to give you pre-May 25th and post-May 25th. Through May 24th, Adael Amador in 37 games hit 145 with a 176 slug. He had 2 extra base hits in 163 plate appearances. His 489 OPS was the 7th worst among qualified hitters in minor league baseball, and he was one of 8 qualified hitters with an OPS under 500. So 489, 7th worst in minor league baseball. Since May 25th, 9 games, he has the 6th best OPS in all of minor league baseball. So he went from bottom 10 to top 10 in a way shorter sample. But in his last 9 games, Amador is hitting 360 with 6 homers, a 1268 OPS. There's a 5-hit day in there as well, and a multi-homer day with that 5-hit game. He's hot for a week and a half. This is a crazy call-up.
This was one of the more shocking call-ups I've seen in a while. And I'm happy for Amador. It's great. Get to the big leagues. Who cares? I know he's not complaining. But at the same time, holy crap. I don't think anybody was expecting it because at the same time, you have a guy that has been one of the more impressive prospects in the minors at the lower levels. He just turned 21 years old. He is very valuable and just prized in general. And on top of that, I think you look at his development as, hey, this is an integral piece in our long-term success. We've talked about what up the middle could look like with Tovar and Amador and the excitement around that. So yeah, maybe you want to get him up there and start having him play with Tovar and all that good stuff. But the thing for me is, this is a dude that had one of the best hit tools in the lower levels, and we've talked about it. I said easily the best hit tool in the minor leagues before the hamate issue.
Yeah.
He breaks that hamate, and I don't know if it was residual effects from that, but when he came back, just didn't look great, and then was banged up with some other injuries as well. And then even dating back to the end of last year, struggled down the stretch last year pretty badly, then went to the Puerto Rican Winter League, struggled there, and then out of the gate this year, struggled the way that you had mentioned. I still think he's a phenomenal prospect, and that's why he's still a top 50 guy for us. But this is a guy that really, really, really has to hit to provide value. And I think also looked really in between when I watched some of his games before this hot stretch, where curveballs, he's taken half-hearted, really uncomfortable swings, and fastballs, they're by him. He just seemed like he was in his own head to a degree. I think they have every right to be excited and think that he's turned the corner now, and you're even seeing him more aggressive on the base paths, which is exciting, and doing more things all around. I just see a guy that in 20 games now, it's really been a hot stretch of 20 games in Double-A. You're going to pull him up to the big leagues, where I feel like you could start to send him right back into that in-between feeling that he just got out of, that what he just fought through, where I was seeing him take some of the worst swings he's taken in his professional career. I hope that's not the case. He did pick up a hit in his first game, but I am worried that you just took a guy who finally saw it go through and finally fought out of this slump, had a really good 20-game stretch, and now you're going to throw him into a situation again where I think his timing can get thrown off again. He could start to press and do things that we were surprised to see him do in the early part of this year. So it is just par for the course with the Rockies. I get it, and I know that they're not really keen on – they don't care about performing right now, and I don't think they care too much about their big league performance. I just was surprised to take a player who just finally started to seem like he was settling in over the last few weeks and just throw him into a situation where, I mean, do they like their hitting coach up there that much more? Do they like the situation up there that much more? I just don't understand how this helps him developmentally long term, but I guess you could make the case that it worked for Tovar a little bit, but I also think you could make the case that Tovar was performing over a larger sample size. Yeah. And also, the thing is if Tovar's not hitting, he can go defend. And with Amador, I think you're going to start to see that pressure pile up because he has to be that 70 grade hit tool guy, or at least a comfortably plus, to be a consistent contributing big leaguer.
And it took a year and a half for it to click for Tovar. Yeah, maybe a year, because it did start clicking at the end of last year, and he's been, I think, really good this year. I think Ezequiel Tovar, I feel comfortable saying he's been really good so far this year. But Tovar, the thing that kind of perplexes me most about this situation is Tovar had a clear runway. There was nobody standing in his way at short when he got up. And when he got up, he was going to be there forever. There was no stopgap, and Ezequiel Tovar was there because there was a spot that needed to be filled. The corresponding move for Amador coming up was Brendan Rodgers hitting the IL. So you're telling me that the top prospect in your organization is a situational fill?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's even the crazier part. So what happens when Rodgers comes back?
Yeah, do you option Amador here? Does he suck it up for 3 weeks? Rodgers comes back from this hamstring strain, and you send Amador to Albuquerque? I don't really understand what the 6-month plan is for this whole thing.
Are they so unserious that they view it like this? I'm trying to put myself into their shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, we need a second baseman in the meantime. We could bring up Coco Montes or somebody else to fill in the infield from AAA. Or let's get Adael Amador a big league taste for a few weeks. And even if he struggles, he'll get the experience, and then he can go back to the minor leagues and apply it from there. If that's the case, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard, because you had a guy that, again, was starting to click and starting to see things go, and now you're going to put him in the big league situation where he's batting eighth and maybe not even playing every day, especially when Rodgers comes back, then we'll see.
And the average heater goes from 91 to 95.
Exactly.
And bullpen arms, dude, there's a chance every single bullpen arm he sees eats him alive. Sorry to cut you off.
No, and I hope not, but you're right. So I just like to see guys build on a positive stretch, especially when we're talking about a guy who came off of the hamate issue, who has struggles that have extended into the end of last year. And I can't emphasize enough, this is coming from a place of, this has been long one of my favorite hitters in the minor leagues. And I've just watched him this year look like a different hitter up until the last 20 games. And even through this hot stretch, I still see a guy that was just starting to feel it come back to him in the way that he was commanding his at-bats. And now you're going to throw him in the back of the order and face some arms that are going to be really, really difficult for him. So I'm always happy to see guys get called up. But if it's just to be sent back down with maybe less confidence and momentum in a few weeks, it makes zero sense to me. If he's going to stay there and they're going to figure it out with Brendan Rodgers, then it's another conversation. And I'm okay with them just wanting to finish the development at the upper levels, I guess. The other spin zone that I had mentioned was that I wonder if they were trying to go with this unique approach to how they maybe unintentionally did it with Tovar, which is instead of manipulating service time, you bring a guy up too early, have him inevitably struggle, and then as he's struggling and maybe just starting to show that he can settle in at the big league level, you offer him a super team-friendly pre-arb deal like Ezekiel Tovar got. He takes it because he's like, man, this big league thing is hard, and then you've got him locked up for even cheaper. The Rockies might just be smarter than all of us.
I think so. They could be galaxy branding this, and I would be all for them galaxy branding this. The other thing that I want to bring up, and I think it's pertinent with Amador, I was listening to the Pirates pregame show on radio, like right before, we hit the air. It's just a cool thing to do when, Pirates and Indy play at the same time. And I heard Dan Zangrilli, who's the pre and post game guy for the Pirates on radio, ask Derek Shelton this. And he highlighted the trend of guys that are quote unquote fast tracked through the minor leagues or, don't spend as much time in the fermentation process as most even did like a decade ago, and how a lot of them are struggling out of the gates, like a Jackson Chourio being up and struggling out of the gates, a Wyatt Langford being up, struggling out of the gates, a Victor Scott, he broke camp, he really struggled, a Pete Crow Armstrong even too. Like there are a lot of examples, especially this year, of guys that just kind of fast-tracked and they got blown up in the big leagues. And he used it to kind of ask about Henry Davis, too, because when Davis has gotten up, he's really struggled. And that's a guy that has very limited minor league time.
Yep.
A guy like Amador, man, like, I don't think it's the end of the world if he spends another year in minor league baseball. I really don't. I'm all for getting these guys big league paychecks, but don't you want to be good when you get up there?
Yeah. And I feel like he obviously is going to probably have the attitude that, I'll be good up here and for sure. But I think when you also look at what has been his challenge this year and how much he has specifically struggled against breaking stuff, right? Yes, you can talk about the stretch of 20 games, but you still look at the numbers and cumulatively he's hitting 195.
Yes.
So he's still been bad overall this year and he is super talented. And I would like to see him get the opportunity to do it when he has some momentum. But when you're hitting 100 against sliders, that's all you're going to see as well. And this is also a switch hitter. So this is a guy that not only needs to get his swing right and has been doing that, he needs to get both swings right. So that's the other aspect, because if your right-handed swing's lagging behind, in the big leagues, man, late in the ball game, they want to win, and they have those splits, of course. Adael, I'm sorry, they're flipping you back around to the right side.
Yes.
Where he's hitting 190. So it's not much better. He's 196 from the left side, but just theoretically speaking here, like if you're struggling from one of those two sides too, you're going to get flipped around more in the big leagues than 10 times more than you're going to get flipped around in the minor leagues. The minor leagues, they don't give a shit. It's whoever's scheduled is going to throw.
Who's scheduled.
The guy that's going to throw.
Here it's situational, and they're going to play chess. And if they smell blood in the water and they know that there is a surefire out in that inning, they're going to go make sure they get that surefire out.
Yep.
And that's going to hurt to be a surefire out for the first time in your life.
Yes. And hopefully he's not that. And to end it on a positive, though, he has looked like the Amador that was one of the best hit tools in the minor leagues over the last 20 games. And we've seen that through prolonged stretches before the hamate. So hopefully it was more residual effects of the injury. Hopefully he feels like himself here. I have been really excited to see him more aggressive on the base paths because he's not a burner, but he's very strategic and opportunistic, very heady baseball player, and he's very much settled in that regard of late and already stole one in his first game at the big league level. So it's fun to see that aspect of his game coming along, and by all accounts, the makeup's great and the way he goes about his business, but it might be a slower burn. I just encourage people to not make any don't change your perspective on Amador. I legitimately won't. My perspective on him will only change if he balls out.
Yeah.
No matter how bad it is, nothing will change on my eval as it pertains to Adael Amador.
Shout out Greg Jones before we move on. Greg Jones finally up at the big club, made his major league debut in Wright, which is a place that he has, I think, never played before. So
very briefly last year in Durham for a couple games.
Okay, there you go. But shout out Greg Jones. I know this is a guy that you've had the chance to interview way back, but man, I mean, he's fun, and like he could be a big league spark plug, pinch runner, defensive replacement type.
He's as explosive as they come. I've interviewed, we've talked to a bunch of different guys in the Rays system, and when Greg was still in that Rays system, who's the best athlete? It was without hesitation Greg Jones every single time. And the Rays have athletes, man. I mean, look at Chandler Simpson now. It was before Simpson, but the point being, there's been a lot of guys, not quite to that degree, but they've always searched for athletes, and Greg Jones was the premier of that. So it's always fun to watch him go do his thing, and he'll probably be that random guy when the Rockies are in town and he'll leg out a triple, and people will be like, who the hell is that? And they'll look at the numbers, and they'll be like, oh, well, the numbers aren't that great. But he's electrifying, and he should be a fun bench piece for them. So I'm glad he's up there, too, because Joe Rock, who they swapped him for with the Rays, is shoving in AAA right now.
Totally shoving. And Greg Jones has the sport goggle look, and who doesn't love the sport goggle look? We're going to talk about two more call-ups, but before that, quick word about our friends at Game Time. New friend of the show is Game Time. Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. You get killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. All in all, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. June 22nd, Cubs-Mets at Wrigley. I have been eyeing that game for about 2 weeks now because my girlfriend wants to go and her two friends from med school want to go. And I'm like, okay, I got to get 4. I use the all-in pricing tool where it's like, okay, it's going to be about, $90 a head. Like, we can do this. It's just clarity that I'm really happy that I have with Game Time. Use Game Time for last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater. List goes on. You get a lowest price guarantee. You get the panoramic seat views. Again, I love the all-in pricing. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code JUSTBASEBALL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use code JUSTBASEBALL, all caps, one word, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
There's nothing worse than seeing the tickets you want, and then you go to check out, and they effectively double.
They kill you. Yeah.
Yeah, the all-in makes it a lot easier. And then the flash deals. I've gotten some nice deals when I'm on the fence about going to a ball game. So check that out.
Right, because then you can't pull the just out of my price range thing. It's like it's too good. So
I'll put a number in my head when I'm on the fence. I'm like, if I get it for under 60, I'm in. I'll get a flash deal for like 58, and I'll be like, all right, I set the number. I
know. That's what I did with the NCAA tournament in March, because like Indy really lucky to host like a regional and all that stuff, and I'm just like, I have a number in my mind. It's a 4-game session. I'll go if the 2-game session is under 80, and then quick flash deal gets it down to 74, and it's like, all right, yeah, let's go see the St. Peter's Peacocks beat Kentucky. Why not?
And then you'll spend 30 on beer anyways, and go post in your own head. So that's how it always goes.
We're good. It's fine. Price of going to a ball game. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the White Sox, because why not? And that price of going to the ball game, low right now. Drew Thorpe can help elevate it in due time. Drew Thorpe went from New York to San Diego in the Juan Soto deal, and went from San Diego to the White Sox in the Dylan Cease deal. He had an active offseason where he didn't really know where he would be, and now he's headed to the South Side after shoving in Birmingham. He is the number 43 prospect in baseball, per justbaseball.com. 11 starts in Birmingham this year. Thorpe is, I'm going to cite record here twice with Thorpe, 7-1 with a 1.35 ERA in 11 starts in AA in the Southern League. 60 innings, 35 hits. Opponents are hitting 170 against him. Punched out 56, walked 17. I looked at the minor league career numbers because he started, last year, right? That was his first year after he was drafted out of Cal Poly.
Yeah, because I think the Yankees put him on that
Shut him down.
That classic Yankees program that you gotta believe in at this point, where they draft an arm outside the first round, shut him down, and have him go in their lab, and they just start to get him right. But yeah, his first full season, his first pro stint was last year.
Yep. So his minor league career numbers: 34 starts, 199 and a third innings. Drew Thorpe in 34 minor league starts. Minor league is 21-3 with a 2.17 ERA. 238 punch-outs, 55 walks, a whip under 1 at 0.95. In 199 minor league innings, opponents are hitting 191 against him. Since the start of last season, there's no better pitcher in minor league baseball results-wise than Drew Thorpe, and now he gets a shot in the big leagues.
I'm trying to think of a more like aesthetically pleasing pitcher to watch right now in the minor leagues, and I'm sure there's some. Like and by aesthetically pleasing, I usually lean towards the George Kirby types, the strike throwers who will then surprise you with their stuff in their back pocket. And Thorpe, I think people will look at him, and especially when you read the reports and you say, okay, the changeup is what he's got, but he's only 90 to 92. So now we've seen him tick up a little bit more to 91, 93. But he's not going to blow it by guys. Is he a little bit too much of that Gavin Stone type of changeup dependent? And I could see why that could still be a reasonable concern, because you see guys get to the big leagues and all of a sudden pitches that they were throwing 10, 12, 13% of the time, they're not throwing it all because they don't trust it. I don't know if that's going to be the case with Thorpe, though, because Thorpe has a curveball that has been playing really well as a pro, and that pitch for him has held opponents below a 200 batting average. He mixes in more of this cutterish pitch that, of course, the Yankees have kind of introduced to a lot of their arms, and that was one that he started throwing with them and has been a pretty good weapon for him. And then he has a slider that he'll mix in. So he has different ways that he can kind of go about his business. And then the other thing that I think helps him is he does get above average carry, at least on the fastball. So I think it does help set up the changeup. What's amazing about his changeup is that if you look at it in a vacuum, I think by Stuff Plus, I'm really interested to see how Stuff Plus rates it. I don't think it's going to love it because it doesn't have the vertical separation of a lot of other changeups. Whereas if you look at induced vertical break, normally you want to see 10, 12, 13 inches of separation, meaning the fastball is going to look like it's riding more, the changeup's going to fade downwards more. Thorpe's is pretty close. It has, I think, some of the shortest separation between a fastball and a changeup in terms of movement. But I think that's what makes it so good, because he does get about 9 to 10 miles per hour of separation velocity-wise, and it has just enough fade to where when it gets close to the hitter, he's thinking fastball, 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 fastball. Wait, what the hell was that? And I don't know if there's an example of a changeup that looks more like a fastball than Drew Thorpe's, because of the way that he's able to do it. The over-the-top delivery helps. All that stuff helps as well. But I don't think I've seen over the last 2 years a changeup with a higher in-zone whiff rate than Drew Thorpe's. And to me, that says the changeups are usually a chase pitch or a ground ball pitch. Or, it's not as much of an in-zone whiff pitch. But Thorpe will miss up with that changeup and still get swing and miss, because to me, that says hitters feel as confident as ever that it's a fastball until it's not. And I think that's why it's going to continue to dominate even at the big league level.
So everything you just said probably evoked visions of Lucas Giolito for White Sox fans, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. But remember the good years of Lucas Giolito, where he was getting swings and misses on elevated changeups, and that changeup was performing as one of the better pitches in all of baseball, and that's how he was eating innings with that changeup. That's how he was an all-star caliber pitcher for the good years with that changeup. Giolito, I think it was like a circle. The only other guys that I can think about beating opponents within the strike zone with the changeup, Jordan Wicks on his way through the minor leagues. Wicks was like, in recent memory, beating guys with the changeup on their way through. And friend of the network, actually, Joey Cantillo, saw him this weekend in Columbus or in Indy. Great guy. Like, asked how we were doing all that.
Amazing. We got to get him back on the call up.
100%. And he's healthy. He just worked his way back from a hamstring strain. He said it was the best thing to happen to him, like just that moment of shutdown and like, hey, let's figure some stuff out. His Vulcan change, and I know it might move a little bit more, but like that really gives off the idea of fastball, and the separation is what kills people, I think. And that is kind of an old school thing where it's the velocity separation that's getting the whiff, but it really does feel like same pitch velo separation that gets the whiff for Thorpe. And that is kind of the secret sauce, and he's totally in the minority of changeup pitchers in Major League Baseball now.
Oh, 100%. And I think I'm really excited to see how it plays. And then we saw in spring training that I think because of the way that it works and not being as much of that circle change, screwball, arm side fade type of pitch, it actually might play pretty well right on right as well. And we've seen that professionally so far play really well right on right. So I'm excited about it. My one concern still is the fastball just going to get hit too hard? And he can still survive that way because of the assortment of other pitches that he has. But the fastball needs to not get shelled, essentially, if he wants to achieve his ceiling. And I think he can mask it enough. And I think that the carry helps enough. But I do think that there's an added importance on a Drew Thorpe to hit his spots with the fastball and to be pinpoint command-wise. You mentioned, though, we've seen the strikeout to walk stuff and all that. But I think that with the fastball command is the last thing I'm kind of looking at here that I think can help him achieve that number 3 to potentially even, flash as a number 2 ceiling.
I was going to ask you about the big league fit because I said we would do that with all 4, but I think it's very clear how you feel like he's just.
Jack, where does he fit in, you think? In that?
Yeah, I think he's rotation? The 2. I think he's the 2, Aram.
Pick a number, dude. Like he's in there, and you don't need to move anybody aside for him, really. Like he's got the spot, really, and I think even if he's getting shelled, he's got the spot.
I'll call him the 3 for now because I'll put Crochet at the 1 and Fetty's the 2. Like Fetty's been throwing well, but Fetty's a lock to get traded. Crochet seems like a lock to get traded at this point. So after the deadline, we might be talking about this guy's 10th Major League start being like as the number 1 starter for the Chicago White Sox. I also really liked watching Jonathan Cannon go 3 out of the pen. I thought that was good for him to be a multi-inning reliever. He's a big league arm. I don't know if he's a big league starter, but like he was a big league arm, and for him to go 3 on the back end of a win, I thought was really cool.
And you're starting to see the arms matriculate to where, like, yes, they suck. Like, they're terrible.
Yeah.
But now there's enough intrigue here where, you get to see Cannon come out of the bullpen and give you 3 strong, or, now you're going to see Thorpe start. We're not going to be far away from Iriarte getting his crack. Even a Nick Nastrini who's struggled, like I at least am watching and saying there's a big league arm in there somewhere. How does it settle? We'll see. But I'm just excited to see. And Thorpe was another classic. Doesn't need to go to AAA. Just have him skip that level and have him go straight to the show. I'm glad they did it with him. But the last thing I'll say on Thorpe and really just the White Sox in general is I think you got to feel really good about where the pitching is headed there and where the White Sox pitching could be next year. With Noah Schultz not far away, that's more of just a usage thing and how they want to manage his innings. So we mentioned Iriarte not far away. Grant Taylor is coming up and looks really good. Even a Mason Adams looks like he could come up and be that other Jonathan Cannon type, like Swiss Army knife, multi-inning relief. So it's got to be exciting for White Sox fans at least to look at that and say, okay, well, at least the pitching infrastructure's there. And there are some bats that you can look forward to. But I would be patient with Thorpe because I do think that he's going to have to figure out the sequencing and what works best for him. But this is the start of more exciting faces. I got one last question for you on this. Opening day starter 2025 for the White Sox, who would it be?
Kershaw signs a 1-year deal with the White Sox.
I would say that the safest and best answer would be Crochet. He doesn't get traded.
But I think he gets traded.
I think he gets traded. Who's the opening day starter then?
I think he gets traded, and I think we might today watch the Major League debut of the 2025 opening day starter for the White Sox.
Or they'll sign some vet, like they'll do Eric Fetty again and then give him the ball.
Yeah, like a Martin Perez or something.
Yeah, that's probably my answer. It'll be random free agent.
Random free agent. Okay. I think I'm going to go Thorpe. I'm going to try and be excited about this. Also, get me excited about Wolkow. Did you see George Wolkow's homer?
Mm-hmm. 114.
114 from a 19-year-old.
Mega juice. Well, we'll see. There's swing and miss for sure, but it's not egregious. Like, it's not off the charts. Like, this guy has no chance to hit. So this young, let's see what happens. But man, I'll sign me up for a 19-year-old popping 114s and see where the hit tool goes.
Crazy. Last debut that we got to talk about is Tyler Locklear with the Seattle Mariners. And Locklear went 1 for 4 with an RBI double, 100.2 off the bat, I think, to right center from the right-handed hitter. Locklear, outside the top 100, Mariners have one of the best top 10s in Major League Baseball when it comes to farm system and like top 10 prospects. Locklear is the number 8 prospect in the Mariners system when you did that, Mariners top 15 prospects, let's say like a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago. Tyler Locklear played 41 games in Double-A. He slashed 291, 401, 532. That's a 933 OPS, 21 extra base hits, 10 games in AAA. And we were excited when he got the call to Tacoma week and a half, 2 weeks ago. 10 games in triple, slashed 300, 417, 475. Same deal. He's going to walk a lot. And the thing that I appreciate most about Locklear is this is a big, strong man. And the Seattle Mariners need big, strong men in that lineup right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, when people were doing some mock trades and stuff like that, and even some of our staff was talking about some of the Luis Robert trade destinations and things like that. Of course, Locklear is not going to be a deal breaker when you're trying to get a Luis Robert or whatever. But I kept saying, hey, shift away from Locklear, not because he's untouchable, but I think there's a case to be made that the Mariners may be willing to part with a higher regarded quote unquote prospect that's further away, because Locklear fits like a glove for them right now and can satisfy a lot of needs that they have right now. Sure, he may have the big league struggles. We just talked about guys getting up there and realizing how different it is and how difficult it is. But there's a chance that he can help them as soon as this year. And he's going to be needed next year, especially if Ty France continues to get banged up and just not perform the way that, we had seen him perform kind of out of the gate in his big league career. Locklear, at the very least, too, mashes lefties. So far this year, 1,000 OPS against lefties. I think the Mariners are 21st in baseball. I'm sure they're not good either way. You look at the splits, but still, they're not a team that is very good against lefties. They're 23rd, that is, with a 671 OPS. So even if he's a little bit overmatched by the tough reliever or the high octane stuff righty relievers, you could still pinch it for him in those spots, and he could still be someone that's really valuable for you in the split situation. But he hits the living crap out of the ball. He's, I think, tapped into more game power than we've seen in the past. And we're not seeing it from a home run output totally, but I think we're seeing it from a doubles and just extra base hit output because he's elevating more consistently. And most importantly, the thing that I always kind of put me off of him a little bit, maybe relative to others, and why we liked him, but he wasn't a top 100 guy, was a lot of moving parts. His hands were really far out in front of him. There was a lot of like bat waggle and things that were so difficult to time up. He has calmed all of that down, and I don't think that it's a coincidence that we're seeing him now get on base at a 400 clip so far this year after quieting those moves down. I think he set himself up to make a lot more contact and potentially be able to fill a big league role. We'll see. I have still have some concerns about the hit tool, but absolutely worth a shot for them and absolutely can be a help to them this year.
Yeah. Dude, I think the fit is so seamless. He's playing first right now. Okay. I don't know. I think he's just the first baseman moving forward. And
if he's performing, for sure.
If he's performing, and I like heel fracture, I don't know what heel fracture is. Frankly, I don't know how long Ty France is out with a heel fracture.
I'd imagine a little bit. And then even when he might be ready to come back, it's probably more in that DH role. And because the thing is if he's ready to come back into the lineup, he also has to play first because Mitch Haniger's got the DH spot. So I think it may take a little bit of time before we see him back. And also you also have Mitch Garver filling in that DH role as well. So Haniger's oscillating between right and DH. Garver's probably clogging the DH spot even more and then catching on occasion. It just doesn't, I don't really know if there'll be a spot for him if Locklear hits. If he doesn't, then okay, great. You send Locklear back to AAA. It's not a big deal. He earned a look with his performance in the upper levels. And, you'll let Locklear go through the rest of this year, and then you'll figure out what you're going to do at first base going into next year.
I think the roster answer, like when Ty France becomes healthy again, and we don't know when that is, but when he's ready to be activated off the IL, I think one guy is going to go down to Tacoma, and it's either going to be Tyler Locklear or it's going to be Canzone, because I think that you can kind of figure out a way to like, hey, you've got Haniger and Rayleigh splitting time in left or right, wherever it may be. Canzone is not performing right now. I do think it's going to come down to a Locklear or a Canzone conversation. but it seems like we're at least several weeks away from that. So I'm excited to see this longer look at Tyler Locklear playing pretty much every day.
That's the great part. But I do think, kind of just diving into the France numbers a little bit more too. Like he has been swinging it well up until that injury, which stinks, but he is going to also have some rust to shake off. 116 WRC plus. That might not be lighting the world on fire to you who may be listening, but also it is lighting the world on fire if you're a rookie who just came up to the big leagues. So it is a steep ask for Locklear to be that above average bat right away, but he has the opportunity to prove that he can be that. And if he has a hot start here, then yeah, we will have some complications in terms of roster decisions. I think the Mariners would welcome that problem. But at the very least, you can fall back on the fact that, okay, Locklear wasn't ready. Let him go mash and triple. And now he knows. What we were just saying as a joke with Amador actually applies here with Locklear. And now he knows some of the things that he needs to work on to be able to hit big league stuff as a bigger guy and work on that in AAA as you have Ty France kind of fill right back in.
Yeah. Couple of notable DFAs from over the weekend that I want to talk about, and then IL stints quick. Like, it just sucks, unfortunate that it comes like this. But the two DFAs, Kevin Biggio at Toronto, Harold Ramirez at Tampa. I want to start with Harold Ramirez because it really further proves the point that if you're a batting average guy and you're not hitting 300, where's the value? And Harold Ramirez, in 290 games with Tampa, is a career 300 hitter. He was hitting 268 this year. That's not, but you do not DFA at 268 hitters. Well, you do if he's slashing 268, 284, 305 for a 589 OPS. And he's playing first base DH. I mean, where's he logged time so far this year?
DH and corner outfield, barely.
DH, 24 innings in right, 19 innings in left. He started 36 games at DH.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that. And I think that's just like another nail in the coffin. I don't think batting average is irrelevant. I think batting average is very relevant, but that can't be the only thing you do. And if it is the only thing you do, you better hit 320. Yeah. And he was hitting 270 and the value is gone.
That's why I don't want to like segue this into a full-fledged Arias conversation, but that's why the old heads on the Marlins beat that tend to be kind of mean to me. Just for covering prospects and not doing anything, just minding my own fucking business. I don't get it. Like, I get it from their perspective because it's hard to explain to those folks that you need to provide value in other ways. And I think this is a perfect example. And I thought Craig Mish nailed this in the way that he shared it with Arias, where he said he spoke to some executives who said, if Arias hit below 290, he could get non-tendered next year because Arias is going to be owed $12+ million. He's going to make $10 million this year. And then next year's a final year of ARB. He's going to be owed, I don't know how it works from there, but it's going to be $12+ million, I'd assume. If he's not hitting 330, he's not that valuable. I'd say Arias gives you a little bit more defensive utility than a Harold Ramirez at first base, I guess, and a little bit of second. But the point being, like, the second that these guys don't hit, they are a gaping hole for you. The good part is there's another team out there that'll claim him and that he'll go to, and they will, be able to be patient with him. So where when he does have a 73 WRC plus, it's okay because you're rebuilding or whatever, and it could be a piece for you. But this shows you how, if you're a team that's trying to compete right now and you're trying to build the best roster possible, it shows you how quickly teams can move off of these contact over everything guys. And again, I know Arias is a better version of this, but at the same time, Harold Ramirez slashed 313, 353, 460 last year. That was a 128 WRC plus. It's pretty damn close.
Arias hit 354 and had a 132 WRC plus.
So we're not talking far. And again, Arias is a better player, and I don't want this to sound like coping on the Marlins side. Like, I don't care at all. But I do think it's important to look at the whole scope and see how teams value these players now. It's just objectively how it goes. You can disagree with how teams value these players and say that I think these types of players are undervalued. I'll listen to that argument all day. But I'm just telling you how we understand and how we know that these teams value these guys. And Harold Ramirez is a perfect example of that. Back-to-back years now, too, even those unreal seasons, 1.3 F4, 1.5 F4, when you're balling out to that degree. again, Arias is a rare talent bat to ball wise and is even more special. And I trust him to be good year over year over year, a lot more than a Harold. But at the same time, again, it shows you how quickly the value and the perception on players like this can switch to where a Rays team that is kind of struggling said, you know what, we're better off using this roster spot for somebody else. And they're not willing to wait for Harold Ramirez to potentially, get that WRC plus back up to the 120 range. For them, it wasn't worth the roster spot and the clogging that he does to your defensive situation. And I think that is pretty nuts, though, after 48 games for a 29-year-old. So hopefully he catches on with somebody else because he is a talented hitter and he will catch on. It's just going to be whether he can put up the same numbers. But it just shows you where the game is trended and how much value there is in being able to provide something other than the batting average.
100%, man. And, last thing on Arise, and again, this is not an indictment on Arise whatsoever, but Luis Arise in 65 games is hitting .331. He's hitting .330. Nolan Gorman's hitting .223 with bad defense, and they've got the same WAR. They're both one-win players at this point.
Yeah. And that's the challenge. And I want Arias to succeed. I hope that he is the difference maker for them in San Diego. And
I hope he hits 380.
I hope we have the 400 conversation again, because the difference with Arias is he is the 100th percentile of this prototype or this archetype, I should say. And the 100th percentile of that is a guy that's going to be a 2 to 3-1 player every year. But this is also an example of how quickly it can go downhill, because if you're not hitting, like we were talking about with Amador, you don't carry much value elsewhere. And I think that's the concern with him, because he's got the bad knees and he's had some of that history. So I'm hoping he hits 380 and gets his bag before the final year of R, but I doubt the Padres would do that. So he's going to have to hit 380 and then hit 380 again, hit free agency. But I'm rooting for him to do that.
100%. The other DFA that I want to talk about real quick is Kevin Biggio of the Blue Jays. And chances are Biggio has a new home by the time you're hearing this. I assume this comes later this afternoon. We're recording on Monday at 4 o'clock Eastern, or it comes at some point today. 29-year-old Kevin Biggio, 44 games so far this year, an 88 WRC plus. He was hitting an even 200, punching out 32% of the time, the highest clip of his career. They had too many cooks in the kitchen doing the same.
Yeah.
What?
I said the adjacents.
They had too many Kevin Biggio adjacents that are like too good to warrant Biggio like getting deep into arbitration. And I think they just kind of viewed this as a chance to cut it clean. It was an abrupt end, but it was an end to, one of the new gen Blue Jays that we were talking about, Bichette, Biggio, Guerrero, all the second generation guys. I mean, Dalton Varsho is a second gen big leaguer as well. Like they put together the baby big leaguers, and Biggio just kind of seemed like the runt of the litter, and he's going to get a shot. He's going to be one of the better hitters for the White Sox or the Marlins or like the Rockies. Like, he can get a shot elsewhere. For where the Blue Jays need to be and want to be, they needed a better option, and they needed a full-time space for a Davis Schneider and an Ernie Clement and guys like that.
Well, I'm looking at what he was doing, and I know, like, with some of the young guys that are going to get up and get an opportunity. How about a Spencer Horwitz? Horwitz is just nothing left to prove in
He
AAA.
hit 400 over his last 11 games in Buffalo.
Every single time you check in, he's just raking. So I don't know what it looks like long term for Horwitz, and the defensive limitations hurt him as well. But I think when you're looking at what they need right now, I'm taking the left-handed bat of Horwitz. But on top of that, the role that Biggio was filling was like second base, right field, third base type. Addison Barger, I think, will do that at a better clip right now and give you a lot more value right now on multiple fronts. I would like to see Barger playing more than Biggio was playing, but Biggio was getting a fair amount of run up until maybe the last week. I mean, you were still seeing him play a few times a week and get a fair amount of opportunity there. So I think if they want to adjust a little bit more in terms of if Horwitz isn't performing and they want to give someone else a crack or whatever, I do feel like both Horwitz and a Barger are better options than Biggio. It's nice that they have that, and I'm glad that they were a little bit more proactive with this. Maybe not waiting for him to hit better and find a trade partner and whatever. Like, just do it and give your other guys an opportunity. And I'm glad they did that.
Yep. 2 IL stints before we go. Kyle Tucker with a shin contusion hits the shelf. Corresponding move is Mr. Joey Loperfido. Now, Abreu, Loperfido, Singleton, all on the same roster right now. Loperfido should be getting a B's over Jose Abreu. It kind of stinks that he's going to be the guy to go down when Kyle Tucker gets right. And a shin contusion, you assume, is like 2 weeks, maybe. I don't know. It stinks that like they're slowing down the MVP caliber year that Kyle Tucker was having, but this gives Loperfido a little bit more run. Overall, just like bad news. I want to make sure, especially with Urquidy and Javier both undergoing elbow surgery on the same day, Astros fans, and like, I know this has been a frustrating enough season, and Josh Hader allowed the walk-off bomb, and Ryan Presley blew the save. Kyle Tucker will be fine. It is a shin contusion. We're good. We're good.
I can't speak for the entire Astros fan base, but I can speak for like the small sample that I get, and I'd like to think that
they're representative of it. Yeah,
they're representative of the rest of the fan base. They want to see more Loperfido.
Yeah,
and I'm biased as well. Like I want to see more Loperfido. And Abreu has been showing some signs of life. And at the end of the day, you've paid him way too much, and he's too much of a pro's pro to not give him this stretch here. But they got to find a way to get Loperfido in the lineup more, especially if he's up there. When he was up there, he was producing. Yes, you can point towards the whiff and whatever you want. He was playing a good outfield. And I usually don't listen to the general pressers, when they're in the clubhouse or in the locker room. Obviously, I was going to be more into listening to what Joey had to say there. But I will say they were peppering him with questions about how to go about it and going back and forth and his feelings on all of that. And he couldn't have answered it any better. But beyond that, it seems like it is a really good clubhouse in there, and that they've really embraced him. And I know that it's been an opportunity for him to learn a lot. I know that Bregman has been a guy that's kind of taken him under his wing a little bit as well. And again, just kind of the vets there are good. And I think that's why we've seen Pena just continue to improve and all that. So I would love to see Loperfido up there more, but I also understand that the Astros are hanging on by a thread here. And they know that if they're going to do it, it's going to be on the backs of their veterans for the most part. Like, if they're going to do it, they're going to need a lot of their vets to swing it. They're going to need Abreu to probably contribute. As much as we'd like to say, yeah, Loperfido, give him a chance. If they're going to be decent this year, they need a 180 from Abreu and some of these other guys. I think it's a little bit more, I don't know what's more lofty, expecting a rookie to do what we were expecting Abreu to do this year, or Abreu to do what we were expecting Abreu to do this year.
I know which one.
I don't know.
I know. Yeah, asking Jose Abreu to do what we thought Jose Abreu was going to do is the loftier thing. He's hitting a $132, man.
Yeah. So at this point, then, like, should they be playing Loperfido more? Like, it's easy to say we're always going to be pro young guys, but like when Tucker comes back, are you sending down Singleton? Like, what do you do there?
I think it depends how the 2 weeks go for Loperfido.
He might play 2 games.
I know, and then he gets...
So that'll tell you the answer already then, depending on how much he plays.
Yeah, and then he gets cursed at it. Like, we'll see what happens.
I love Trey Cabbage. You know this is a pro Trey Cabbage podcast.
Sure.
Come on. What are we doing? Why is Trey Cabbage... Why is he in there? But anyways, I mean, they got a lot to sort out regardless, and I am fascinated by how this team's going to go about their business if it keeps going bad for the next month.
One more quick clubhouse thing. Based on the pressers that I've seen Espada do, and based on like the temperature. Oh, I know. And based on the clubhouse like temperature that you're talking about, it's a good clubhouse. Espada was a good hire. Like, I do think Joe Espada is a good manager. He's going to be a good major league manager. When I look at the Houston Astros in 2024, I don't put blame on anybody except Hader and Presley. Like, I chalk it up to bad luck at this point.
I'm so
them in Atlanta. Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because nothing to do with Joe Espada.
Nothing.
I think that's an excellent point. That never even really crossed my mind, because I, again, didn't even think to blame him. But you know that's where a lot of minds will naturally go. Why is this team underperforming?
Losing record, it's the manager. Yeah,
I get it. But, again, you could blame Bregman. You could blame injuries. Jordan is just now Jordan, but the reason why they started slow is he wasn't performing like the Jordan that we've seen. Yainer Diaz is now performing like Yainer Diaz, but he was not hitting. So you could point at a lot of different directions. Then we could talk about the rotation. You can, I think, list 20 things before you get to Joe Espada and how he could do his job better.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, man. And the thing is, you're paying your closer $95 million. He's going to pitch the 9th inning. I know he allowed the walk-off homer, but like, Abreu can't close on this team, frankly, because you're paying Presley 15 and you're paying Hader 20. And that's how this is going to work. So last thing before we go, Avi Garcia was granted his release. He is a free agent. We'll see if Avi Garcia gets another professional baseball shot. No major league shot at this point. I don't think. I think he's going to need to look the level below if he's looking for more ABs in 2024. But I wanted to shout out, because I saw it on MLB Trade Rumors. I wanted to shout out a guy who I know you've become fairly decent friends with, and who works at the place that you got your writing start at. Isaac is out, a Fish on First, and it was credited Isaac is out, a Fish on First, and the Miami Herald. I know he's doing some guest stuff with the Miami Herald too. So good for Isaac for getting that cred.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, it's always cool to see Fish on First and Isaac get that recognition.
Yeah.
They're the only brave soldiers willing to cover this team the way that a major league team deserves to be covered, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody else is cutting their coverage, and they're doing a really good job. And it's fun to see Isaac get credited with something that, he's a pro, I'll never admit it, but I'm sure anybody covering that team was hoping for that day to come. Just to have something more exciting to cover. Like they'd rather talk about anybody coming up, Dan Myers playing than Avi Garcia. The one thing that is crazy is this 18-game stretch for him this year before he got hurt was actually his best, I think, stint. If you look at the last 3 seasons as a Marlin, Avi Garcia, negative 0.9 F4 in 22.
Okay.
Negative 0.4 F4 in 2023, and he had a solid 0.0 F4 and a 78 WRC plus in 18 games so far this year. Also, if you're wondering why he went on a rehab assignment and then immediately was TFA'd, this does not come with any source or information, but this comes with my eyeballs. And I watched the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp AAA game, and on multiple occasions, ball in the corner, Avi Garcia, we used the word backpedaling today. In a literal sense, I could have backpedaled faster than Avi Garcia jogged to the balls in the corner. So, and it wasn't injury related. It was I don't give a shit related, very obviously. So I think that was when the Marlins finally said, you know what, we've had enough of this. I imagine it's going to be something similar to Gene Segura. We'll probably see a picture or video of Avi Garcia on a boat very soon, having the time of his life, because he's getting paid 15 M's to not play baseball. And that's the dream. That's the American dream right there.
That is.
I mean, that sounds awesome.
Mina Kimes always says her dream is to be a fired college football coach. I think my dream is to be a released Major League Baseball player.
Yes.
So that'll do it. Everything you need is in the episode description. I think it's Aram and Peter. Yeah, Aram and Peter going to talk to you guys tomorrow. No, me and Peter. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, attaboy.